So on the subject of vaccines, as a lad, I had the 6 pricks. I've gone on to live a normal, healthy life, I think. Now, I've researched the war on drugs extensively, and I've researched big pharma as a consequence of that and how things are manipulated. So now in America, you've got kids having up to, I don't know what it is, 80, 90 vaccines. You've got mothers being told in some countries that if they don't get the kids vaccinated, they're not going to get benefits.
Yeah, Australia.
Yeah, in Australia.
No, what do they want? Didn't want to be talking about vaccines.
Your favourite.
Yeah.
So I understand vaccine science, and I do believe that vaccine science and vaccines have created benefits for society. But now you've got this over-vaccination problem, and it's all about money at the end of the day, and they can't get sued because if it's a vaccine, they have legal liability because it's sold through the government. It's just a big shakedown on the taxpayers' money.
From the moment that Big Pharma got immunity from prosecution in America for the effects on vaccines, the number of vaccines exploded because they have nothing to lose. The only safety that the kids have from this vaccine onslaught is that the Big Pharma industry would have some level of empathy and not do what they're doing. But of course, Big Pharma is an empathy no-go zone. Therefore, they are just coming up with more and more vaccines. There's over 100 still in the pipeline now for everything. They came up with a vaccine to, they say, protect young girls from vaginal cancer. And what has happened is a lot of young girls have had their lives destroyed, even ended by it. And then they came up with this idea that they'd give it to boys as well. Now, you know, I know some of the extremes of transgender might call me out on this, but the last time I saw a male body, including mine in the mirror, it didn't have a vagina. So what are they giving boys this bloody drug for? That's why they're giving it, among other reasons. And so I've looked at this vaccination stuff. My 2 boys haven't been vaccinated. They're strapping, you know, adults, and they're absolutely fine because their immune system has been allowed to develop to its potential and not been faced with a tidal wave of toxic shite before it's even formed. Thus, it will never be what it could have been otherwise. I had the vaccines when I was a kid in the 50s, but they were very few. And you know, one of the good things about, you know, living quite a long life is that you've seen what life was like before this stuff. People being born today, this is all they know. And therefore, it's very much easier to scam those people because they don't have a radar. They don't have another point of observation. Well, I do because I've lived a long time. So I was born in 1952. And things like childhood diseases like measles, they were seen, as they should be seen still, as kicking in the immune system and kicking it into its full power. And measles, it was like, you know, some of it wasn't, you know, very pleasant here and there, but measles largely was seen as a week or two off school. It was a bloody, all right, you know, I'm going to be able to watch the cricket in the summer on the telly, Brian Johnson and stuff, Freddie Truman, instead of being at school. And you recovered and you got on with your life. And it gave you lifelong immunity because you have, your immune system has got the code of the disease itself in its natural form. So when it comes again, gotcha, no you, no problem. You know, there's shingles. A lot of people get shingles. Shingles are absolutely horrible. But a lot of that comes from the fact that they've not been given immunity through things like measles. And so then you have things like chicken pox. I mean, chicken pox. I got chicken pox. You have a few bloody things on your body, and then you go back to school, you know. Oh no, we're all gonna die. Measles is a deadly disease. And well, how come we never thought about that in the 50s, you know? And we all kind of survived. Because if you can frighten people about a disease, then you're going to get their support for what you say will protect them from it, which is vaccinations, which brings me to this. What we've got now, and again, it's the same principle as if you can't win the debate, shut it down. This is what they're doing with vaccines, but it's something else. But the same theme. If you can't persuade enough people to have the vaccines, you make it compulsory. In Australia, if you indicated, if you're on state benefits and you don't have your child vaccinated according to the government's schedule, you have your benefits cut, which is, again, disgusting tyranny. But then the government of Australia is a disgusting tyranny, and so is the opposition party, the Labour Party, because they're just masks on the same face. They were all united in their support for my ban. And they're pushing mandatory vaccinations. A guy called Richard Pan, Dr. Richard Pan. I wouldn't let him, deal with my toenail, Dr. Richard Pan. He's a state senator in California. He's been funded by Big Pharma. He has led the campaign for compulsory vaccinations in California. Nice man, very good to his mother, never goes home. And so this is happening in many, many states, more and more states now. I saw even the government minister here was talking about, well, maybe we'd have to look at mandatory vaccinations as an option. And because measles, right? Measles outbreak in New York. Oh my God, we're all going to die. You see the recurring theme here. So, okay. So all the people that got measles weren't vaccinated, right? Well, no. Some of them were. Yeah, well, most of them were, right? Okay. So how many weren't vaccinated? Why don't you tell us that? How many got the measles in this outbreak that were vaccinated? How many were not vaccinated? No, they won't do that. They won't do that because there'll be a question. Well, how come these kids who aren't vaccinated didn't get the disease, but these who are vaccinated did? See, you got a problem here. It's like my sons. They didn't get these diseases, but they weren't vaccinated because their immune system sorted it, right? So, and then you say, they say, this is why they invented this. Well, it's because of herd immunity. What do you mean? Well, they weren't vaccinated. Them that didn't get the disease, yeah? It's because they weren't vaccinated that these that were vaccinated did get the disease. That's what it was about. Yeah, okay, right. So let's look at herd immunity. You give someone a vaccine, yeah, to stimulate the immune system to become aware of this disease so it protects them from it, yeah? So it's a deal between the person vaccinated immune system and the disease, right? Well, yeah. So where's herd immunity come into it? Why do these kids who are not vaccinated have any effect on that dynamic between that vaccinated kid's immune system and the disease? Herd immunity is a hoax simply to explain why unvaccinated kids don't get the diseases and vaccinated kids do, and two, to justify the imposition of vaccination on the unvaccinated to ensure that everyone is vaccinated and there is no basic human right to say no. And I ask people this. If you want a definition of fascism, what better than you do not have a say about what goes into your body or in your children's body? That's a fair definition of fascism, and that's what these people are seeking to impose. And it's global. Why is it global? Why is it happening everywhere? The web I talked about earlier. It's coming from a central point and it's coming out through the web. So it's happening in Australia, it's happening in America, it's been talked about in so many other things. And another question, if you want to manipulate the body You want to manipulate the DNA. You want to mutate the DNA into something different for very significant reasons that I talk about in the books, what comes from that. Or you want to inoculate diseases, as some of their documents have talked about. Then what more do you want than to get government, legal, official, mandatory access to the whole population through an hypodermic needle? It's your wet dream if you want to get access to the body's systems. And of course, because of the compartmentalization, the person putting the stuff in through the needle, clueless about what the agenda is. The person prescribing it or insisting on it, overwhelmingly clueless about the real reason it's being done. The people in the factories putting the stuff into the vaccines, clueless about why it's really being done. And then you get deep enough in the rabbit hole and you get to that point where they know exactly why they're doing it. And it's from here that human-caused global warming has been hoaxed, that vaccines are hoaxed, that all these other things are imposed upon society, while the rest of the population impose it upon themselves, impose it upon each other, while being clueless about even the existence of this, never mind why they're insisting that the world is as it is.
Do you think then there is a link between over-vaccination and autism?
100%. Another thing, autoimmune disease. You know, people say, well, you're not a doctor. And you know why? You know what? That's a good thing. Because doctors are programmed. They're programmed and they are herded in two ways. They go through the education system, what passes for it. They call it that. It's not really. It's a programming operation. Programming of perception operation. That's what school and university and education is. Then they go to medical school. The medical school, overwhelmingly funded and backed and controlled by the big pharmaceutical cartel, then tells them what they not only should believe about the body and treatment and vaccines, etc., but what they must believe if they're going to be a doctor. And what they must do when they become a doctor, otherwise they're struck off. So a doctor is not a free, independent mind. It's a controlled mind, A, through programming of perception, and B, through, if you don't accept the programming, you can find another profession. It's independent people who have a few brain cells working in unison, who simply look at it. And let's look at bombarding a still developing immune system with this tidal wave of toxic shite. It's insane. It's insane. And something like a free, independent mind that's looking at facts rather than preconceived ideas can see that, but the preconceived idea can't see it. And what is a doctor? It's a preconceived idea. But some of them are breaking away. I've just read a brilliant book by an American family doctor called Richard Moskowitz, called Vaccines: A Reappraisal. Any parent that read that book about vaccines, what's in them, their effect, all their hidden figures of damage to kids that people never see, they'd never have the children vaccinated. But they don't read them. They watch CNN. And they're told they can't have their kid at school if they don't get them vaccinated, and so what? Well, don't let them go to school then. That'd be a good thing. They've got free mind then. But you look, like I say, with an independent something like free mind. You look. I'm always looking for patterns. That's where the truth lies. It doesn't lie in the dots. It lies in the patterns, and it lies in the cause and effects. What we've had, particularly in the explosive vaccine era since the immunity from prosecution, is an explosion of autism and autoimmune disease, where the immune system attacks its own body. What happens is these needles go in, and because they're going into the muscle, they're bypassing very important parts of the immune system, which would react differently if it was on the skin or coming in through the digestive tract. And so these toxins attach to elements of the body. And because they're toxins, the immune system sees them as the threat. And in attacking them, it attacks the body, and so you get autoimmune disease. This is why autoimmune disease has gone through the roof in the vaccine era, and particularly the insane levels of vaccinations that we have today. One other thing, where some of these vaccines have live viruses, and this leads to something which has a name. It's called shedding. And what happens is the live virus is shedded by the vaccinated child or whatever, and it's picked up by other kids who get the disease from the shedding of a live virus. This is well known now. So none of these things are talked about. I mean, the moronic man, David Coleman, the immigration minister, I hear his backbone vibrating from here, has no clue what he's talking about. He's just a repeater, like most people. Just repeat. What are the people in the streets of London? Extinction Rebellion. They're repeating the official version of everything. People pushing vaccines, repeating. And when you refuse to repeat and say, look, I'll repeat it when I've seen that it's justified to repeat it. Oh, it's not. Well, we'll censor you then. It's this repeating society, this repeater society. How do you know that? Well, everybody knows that. Well, I don't know that, so not everybody. So how do you know that? And it's just because they've heard it over and over again, it must be true.
Well, they do hear it over and over again, and this has really impacted my parents because years ago, they were getting sick every year or so. And I kept saying to them, are you getting any vaccines? Have you had the flu vaccine? Yeah, we've been getting the flu vaccine. Stop getting the flu vaccine. They stopped getting sick. Spoke to my dad a couple of weeks ago. Oh, I'm sick right now, blah, blah, blah. Did you get the flu vaccine? Oh, yeah. Gone back to getting the flu vaccine.
Yeah. How did you get the flu? Vaccine. But this is the thing about flu. The flu virus is constantly mutating. So by the time they've got what they think is a vaccine for the previous thing, it's mutated and it's freaking useless. So all you're getting is an armful of shite for no reason whatsoever, except that in big pharma coffers.
Taxpayers' money handed over to big
Absolutely.
pharma. America spends more than any country in the world on healthcare, and it's got the sickest people. I think that says what is motivating.
If you look at the infant mortality rate in the United States in the vaccine era, it's way down even in the Western world. So it's not making kids healthier; it's making them sicker. And this is another scam, actually, which this Dr. Moskovitz very eloquently exposes. Because Big Pharma is an empathy-deleted zone, it's only interested in money. It has no empathy or compassion. Can we just deep breath? How does Big Pharma make its money? Billions. Well, from people being sick. So it's got no interest in people being healthy then. It's got an interest in people being sick. So what they're doing in these vaccine scams is you look at the list of side effects, and they're not side effects, they're effects of these vaccines on many, many people, including brain damage, including death, and many other things. What the big pharma cartel has done in the vaccine era, it started producing drugs to treat the effects of the vaccines. Right? So you get a vaccine, you get an effect from the vaccine, they'll sell you a drug to treat the effect of the vaccine. And it's all this. You've got to realize, ladies and gentlemen, that the big pharma cartel is a psychopath's playground. Thus, psychopaths have no interest in your well-being. So whatever they tell you will be good for your well-being should be treated not with a pinch of salt, but with a mindful of it. And then we might start getting our minds back and questioning obvious nonsenses instead of accepting them as unchallengeable truth.
You triggered another thought, though. You said the big pharma makes money from people being sick, but at any point in society, only a minority of people are sick. So let's target the majority of people, the healthy people, by telling them they could potentially get sick.
Statins. Statins.
Statins.
Statins. I put a meme on the internet. It had a doctor talking to this couple, and he said, I want you to take statins because I have to pay for my all expenses paid Big Pharma trip to the Caribbean, and it saves the government having to pay you a pension. You know what I mean? So just take these statins. What for? It'll stop you having an heart attack, stop you having heart problems. I haven't got heart problems. Yeah, well, we just take this, you know. But of course, it does give you problems, and it does give you it does give you consequences for a number of people in the heart area. So, what are you taking a drug for something you haven't got? What are you doing? But statins are more and more people are on these statins, and they're bringing the age forward. We think you should take statins at 45 now. Well, I've got a 6-month-old grandchild. What do you think? Statins? Yeah. What do you reckon? It's mad, and it's so blatant, Shaun. That's the thing. It's so blatant. We make money from selling things. We've got to give you more and more excuses for you to buy them. It's simple as that. And Big Pharma is satanic. It's satanic. It's literally satanic.
I think some on the board that brought the statins to this country were tied into the companies manufacturing the statins. Other thing is, a lot of kids, babies that have died, cot deaths, kids found dead, noses bleeding. In the past, parents would be arrested for baby shaking, but now the police are asking those parents if the kid had recently had a lot of vaccines.
Yes. Now, look, I mean, mate, okay. I don't even have to take a breath and go back here. I don't even have to get that far into this. 6-in-1 vaccines at the same fricking time. They're taking the piss. Whoa, hey, we've got away with 6 now. What do you reckon? 10? Yeah, let's bring the 10-in-1 vaccine in. They'll have the 6. And what's happening in all these areas is they're pushing a gate, and if they meet no resistance, they go through it, they go to the next gate. They get no resistance, they push that, they go to the next gate. So 6-in-1 vaccines. Resistance? Oh, not really. Okay. Oh, how about 10-in-1? So it goes on. And so we've had this explosion of vaccines. And that gate metaphor works right across the society in so many subject areas. But in the end, we still have a mind. They want to take it away from us through AI, connection to the human brain, but we still at the moment have a mind, which, funnily enough, we can use. A mind that just takes that breath and looks at it and says, hold on a minute, does this make sense? I know I've heard it all my life, and I know everyone around me is repeating it, but does it make sense? Does it make sense to put 6 vaccinations into a child at the same time? Huh? And this book, this Richard Moscovitz's book, this doctor's book, tells some horrendous tales of the way what are clearly vaccine-caused medical problems, even death. Something else goes on the death certificate.